You know, it's easy to think of cosmetology as just, well, beauty, right? But what it really is applied biology. Every single treatment for your hair, your skin, your nails, it's all directly interacting with our body's biggest organ. And here's the crazy part. One tiny misstep can completely mess with our natural defenses and, well, open up a whole can of worms.
So that really begs the question, doesn't it? Why is it that something that's supposed to be gentle or just a routine treatment can suddenly cause this massive, out-of-nowhere flare-up? Well, the answer is hiding in a really important biological concept that we're about to get into.
All right, so take a look at this. This is basically our first line of defense, the skin barrier. Think of a healthy barrier, the one on the left, like a perfect brick wall. Your skin cells are the bricks, and this lipid mortar, which is just natural fat, is what holds everything together, keeping things just slightly acidic, which is perfect. But look at what happens on the right. When that mortar gets messed up, you get cracks in the wall. Water starts seeping out. That's what scientists call transepidermal water loss, or TEW. And all sorts of irritants and bacteria can just waltz right in. This right here, a compromised barrier, is the root cause of so many problems.
Okay, so let's take that idea and apply it to our hair, because the exact same principle is at play. We're going to look at that super fine line between a beautiful cosmetic treatment and, well, actual biological trauma.
So how in the world do things like chemical relaxers, perms, or even some dyes actually work? It's kind of fascinating and honestly a little scary. They use these really harsh, high pH solutions to literally break the strong bonds that give your hair its shape and strength. That's what lets you reshape it. But if it goes too far, a chemical reaction happens that makes the hair permanently brittle, weak, and porous. You are literally sacrificing the structural integrity of your hair for a new look. And this leads us to something that, in the professional world, is called a never event. And that name means exactly what it sounds like, something that should never, ever happen. When a chemical relaxer gets applied to hair that's already been treated, that overlap can cause horrific chemical burns on the scalp. And here's the truly crucial part. This can lead to something called scarring alopecia, which is permanent, patchy hair loss. The follicles are destroyed. The stakes could not be higher. Okay, let's circle back to the skin, because this is where some of the biggest myths live, and where it's so easy to accidentally breach that super important barrier we just talked about. All right, here's a huge one we've all heard a million times. This idea that you need to exfoliate every single day to keep your skin fresh and glowing. But the science? It tells a totally different story. Look at the fact on the right. When you over-exfoliate, you are physically stripping away and thinning the top layer of your skin. You're sanding down your own defenses. This just ramps up water loss, makes you more prone to irritation, and seriously increases your risk of infection. It's the perfect example of how doing more can actually be so much worse. And speaking of myths, how about this one? The whole natural equals safe fallacy. Let's just take one example, tea tree oil. Everyone loves it, it's in everything, it's all natural. But get this, it's actually the culprit behind 5% of all cases of allergic contact dermatitis. That's a lot. It's a really powerful reminder that where an ingredient comes from, whether a lab or a plant, tells you absolutely nothing about its potential to cause a bad reaction. All right, let's switch gears and talk about something we might not think is a big deal, nails. Getting a manicure or pedicure can feel like a great bit of self-care, but salons can, unfortunately, be major hotspots for infection. Okay, just look at this number on its own, 20%. Let that sink in for a second. What on earth could this be referring to when we talk about nail salons? Yeah, the reality here is pretty shocking. The CDC has traced 20% of community-acquired MRSA infections, that's a really nasty antibiotic-resistant staph infection, back to nail salons. And that's not all. You've also got risks like Pseudomonas bacteria, which is what causes that gross greenie you sometimes see under acrylic nails. It just goes to show how incredibly critical proper salon hygiene is. So what's the never event here? It's all about cross-contamination. Those pedicure foot baths, if they're not scrubbed and disinfected properly between every single client, they just become a breeding ground for bacteria. And tools like nail files or buffers that get reused, one expert called them biofilm city. These kinds of practices are massive, totally preventable red flags. We've covered hair, skin, and nails. But now we've got to talk about the big one, the final boss, if you will, when it comes to cosmetic risks, injectables. Okay, with dermal fillers, there is one risk that stands above all others, and it's called a vascular occlusion. This is what happens when filler, by mistake, gets injected into an artery instead of the tissue around it. The filler basically creates a dam, a roadblock, inside your artery. It stops blood flow cold. And the consequences? They can be absolutely catastrophic, ranging from tissue death, called necrosis, to, and this is terrifying, permanent blindness. And this is how terrifyingly simple it is. One misplaced injection, an artery gets blocked, and the result is devastating. If that filler happens to block an artery that supplies blood to your retina, vision loss can happen in a flash. It is rare, thank goodness, but it's a terrifying possibility that makes deep anatomical knowledge and impeccable training absolutely non-negotiable for anyone holding a syringe.
You know, there's a quote from an injector that just hits you right in the gut. They call vascular occlusion the true never event that keeps injectors up at night. That says it all, doesn't it? It just shows you the immense weight and responsibility that comes with doing these procedures.
Okay, wow. After all that, I wouldn't blame you if you're feeling a little freaked out right now. But listen, the whole point of this isn't to scare you, it's to empower you. So, let's take all of those red flags we just talked about and turn them into a green light safety checklist, a real, actionable tool you can use before you get anything done.
Here are the 5 things you need to lock in. First up, don't be shy. Ask them straight up. How do you sterilize your tools? You want to hear words like EPA-registered or hospital-grade disinfectant, not just we use alcohol wipes. Second, for any hair dye or chemical treatment, demand a patch test 48 hours beforehand. It's a must to check for allergies. Third, confirm their credentials, and be specific. Ask about their training for the exact procedure you're interested in. Fourth, verify the product itself. Is that filler actually FDA cleared for that specific use, or is it some sketchy, unapproved stuff that's been making the rounds on social media? And finally, consent. A truly great provider will walk you through all the risks, not just the common little ones, but the rare but life-altering possibilities like vascular occlusion.
And all of this leaves us with one final crucial thought. Every cosmetic service is a biological intervention. And understanding the science behind what's happening to your body isn't just for fun. It's your single best defense. So it really all comes down to this one question. Is beauty worth the risk if you don't know the biology? That's something to really think about.